Hello, everyone. I am Jessica, and I'm with Black Travelers Network, and I'm really excited to talk with you today about the importance of travel insurance. And so I'm really happy to have Tania Hoggard, who's joining us today, to have this conversation about the importance of travel insurance. And so before I get started, I want to first say thank you for agreeing to chat today, Tania.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And so, Tania, we have people who tune in who are literally all over the world. And so I want to ask you, because, obviously we have a number of different trips that we do, and we always stress the importance of travel insurance. Now, you work for Chubb Insurance. And so can you tell us a little bit about Chubb Insurance?
Yes, Chubb Insurance is one of the largest property and casualty companies in the world. We have offices globally, and the product that I work with the department I work in is accident and health, which our travel insurance falls under that umbrella. So because I'm taking a trip with your group, this is what I do for a living, I felt like it would go hand in hand and can possibly help people out who do travel more than once a year.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so before we get into a little bit more about the type of insurance, can you speak about why is travel insurance so important?
It's important because anything can happen, as you know, when you're traveling. A lot of times we're not prepared for certain circumstances or situations. It can be an accident. It can be something that's happening politically. It can be a medical evacuation. Somebody can die and have to have their body shipped back to the United States. You just never know what can happen. So this is a coverage that's relatively inexpensive, and the coverages that it provides, it's definitely worth having as a backup plan.
And so one of the biggest things that I feel is one of the most confusing parts about the travel insurance is people will say, well, I have Cigna, or I have, we got a lot of people out in California, I have Kaiser. Can you just speak to what is the biggest difference between what they have here in the United States versus what they would experience the minute they get on an international flight and leave the country?
Okay, so basically from the time that you're covered from the time that you leave your house to the time you return back to your home. You're covered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. But what happens when you have health insurance, when you are traveling abroad internationally, this would be considered excess insurance. So this is going to pay in excess of your health insurance. 9 times out of 10, depending on what happens, the type of claim, if you have to be, so one thing would be, let's say if you have, something happens where the policy will cover you, like if you have any type of sickness, like food poisoning, if you break your arm, basically trying to find a local doctor. Now, in certain areas, Westernized medicine is not the same there as it is here. So the travel assistance company, which is called Europe Assist, they will try to find you something as close to Westernized medicine as possible. So that's a good thing because, like I said, you don't want to go to a local village where they are barely doing whatever ice and maybe not non-sterilized type of instruments. They're going to try to get you to a facility that is as westernized as possible. And like I said, there's offices and locations, hubs all over the world. So basically, your health insurance when you are overseas is not going to help you. You can call Cigna when you're overseas, and what are they going to tell you? Okay, well, you're now considered out of the network.
Mm.
So you're going to have a higher deductible. If you haven't met that copay, you still have to worry about that. With your travel insurance, you just call an 800 number, let them know what's going on. They will find you a doctor. They will find you a local facility, whatever, depending on what your situation is. We have had people who were on a cruise and had to get flown back to the United States due to the situation. They may have literally almost died. So I'm sorry, not back to the United States, but depending on the situation, you may not have, they will give you the option, but you may not have the time medically to make it back to the United States. So I think this particular individual, they had to fly them to Aruba, which they have good hospitals, no problem. So it's just different situations like that. Your health insurance internationally that's a hard thing to do, to try to find coverage for, because again, you're probably not going to have a doctor that they are able to find internationally. This is something that's real, so normally your health insurance pertains to within the United States. And then at that, you still have to worry about, am I even in my local city? A lot of times when you're traveling, you're out of your city. So then that's when you have your out of pocket and your out of network costs, which are extremely high. Mm-hmm. So with this, you don't even have to worry about your insurance. You keep your insurance for when you're at home. This is going to take care of you on your travel destinations.
You mentioned a number of different things that could potentially happen, from emergencies to even a political situation. So can you give a little bit of an example of what would be like something that could happen politically that could impact a person while they're traveling?
Sure. So as we know, things happen all the time in different countries. Speaking like from a Caribbean standpoint, we know that we have a lot of officials who are not on the up and up sometimes. So you may have individuals who live in that area who start to take action against the government, mm-hmm. and start a political uprising for their rights or whatever it is that they're fighting for. And it may be a situation that you may be in, or the people that's traveling with you may be in, and you will have to get out of that particular area. So in a situation like that, normally when you bind a policy with us, each individual is given a portal. There you have the travel assistance number, and you can call them not just for a claim, but if you just want to find out about information about the country that you're traveling to before you actually get there. Whether, how is the weather? How, if there's multiple cabs, what cabs do I need to take? Where do I need to stay away from? What areas are more hazardous? They will give you a wealth of information just on the places that you're traveling. If there's any type of language barriers, they can direct you to someone that can help, with the language issue, any type of medical referrals. If you want to know just, hey, I'm staying at this hotel, can you let me know where the closest hospital is? And a lot of times if something were to happen, that's important to know. And a lot of times we don't think about that. Mm-hmm. So just like I said, you can be climbing up, going to Machu Picchu. I know you may not go there, but I'm just giving you an example. Mm-hmm. And somebody can slip and, twist their ankle, or maybe fall down and really hurt themselves, can be in a coma. You just never know. So just situations like that. But I'm sorry, I'm backtracking. So back to the political uprising. That pretty much would be a situation, like I said, if it's something where you have a group of people that is maybe going against the government or going against another political group in that area, you can call the travel assistance number and they will let you know where you need to evacuate to. If you have to evacuate to another nearby safer location or even back to the United States, that is covered under your policy.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we often do is we recommend a number of different types of travel insurance, but I have to tell you, from you and I speaking, I really wanted you to come on and speak to our group because of a couple of things. One, I love that there's a travel assistant number that people can call in and ask some really basic questions and get their questions answered, whether it's prior to them, arriving or once they're there. I love that is a feature that you guys offer, because oftentimes there are a number of different travel insurance policies that people can just go online and purchase, and they'll just pay their money and they may never interact with anyone, and they don't even probably know the full benefits that they have in terms of buying a policy that will cover them when they travel. The other thing that I really liked about this, and that I really want to highlight for our travel community, is that you guys offer an annual plan. Can you speak a little bit about the annual plan that you offer?
Yes. Most travel insurance, our competitors, AIG, they have a product called Travel Guard, which normally is like when you go on Expedia and you purchase your trip, they ask you, do you want travel insurance? That is with AIG. That is per trip. So normally that cost can be about $79 on up, depending on the cost of your trip. And our policy, depending on the state that you live in, average is about $170 per person. You can do individual or you can do a family plan. The family plan would include the insured, which is the individual, their spouse, and any dependent children. Dependent children basically would be 19 years of age or up to 26 if they are enrolled in college.
Mm.
If there is no children involved, it's better to get two separate individual policies, because you kind of get a discounted, break in price. Another thing I would say is, I'm sure you get people who travel that range, who may have certain issues like high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So pre-existing conditions are not covered under the policy in the event of an accident or sickness. So if an individual that is going on a trip has been diagnosed 60 days prior to their effective date of their policy. So let's say they're leaving this weekend and their policy is effective, let's just say the 5th of October. If they were diagnosed 60 days prior to the 5th of October, that would be considered an existing condition. Like if their doctor says medically if you're requiring a doctor's care, or any type of diagnosis or treatment 60 days prior, then that would be considered a pre-existing condition, which coverage would not apply for those cases. Now, if it's 61 days or later, they are fine. Mm-hmm. A pre-existing condition does not mean a person taking regular medication like for high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, for a controlled illness. That would not be considered a pre-existing condition. So, if they're taking medication for a controlled illness, then that's a different situation.
Okay.
But yes, so I guess as far as the pricing, it's great because it doesn't matter how many trips they go on. A lot of times, I'm sure people may be going on a trip with you, then they may want to take a cruise later on in the year or go somewhere else to a Caribbean island. It's a yearly policy, so no matter how many trips they go on within that year, whether it's locally or internationally, they do have coverage. Now, the only thing is the accident medical is basically for those that are traveling outside of the United States. So it's just depending on what they're doing and where they're going, what type of coverage is going to pick up.
Okay. And so in terms, you also mentioned that they could add certain things onto their policy. So for example, if I have a sick parent and, but I already have a trip that's scheduled and I don't know, if I'm going to have to end my trip early, would that be considered an add-on?
You can have what's called trip cancellation, trip interruption, or event trip package coverage. Basically, it provides cancellation. These are for the smaller trips. We have a whole another policy for leisure travel, which are your safaris, things like that, that may be a little bit more pricey. But the trip cancellation will provide coverage if they have to cancel or their trip is interrupted for certain covered reasons, which, like, let's say if they have their mother is sick and or there was a death and they have to go to the funeral, which has happened, and they have to fly back to the United States, that they will basically provide $2,500 per person up to $10,000 for the entire trip. So, or $10,000 per trip limit plus any event ticket cancellation, like if they were going to a concert or something in Paris, they would provide $250 for that particular event. So that is an optional upgrade. Trip, what is it called? Trip delay is already included, which basically, if, let's say, due to the weather, your trip is delayed more than 8 hours, they will basically provide a hotel, for you at no additional cost. So it just depends on the situation. But for the trip cancellation, it would fall under one of the covered causes in that policy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that is an optional coverage. If there's any, avid golfers, they do have a golf option or a golf package, which is an additional cost, and that basically would cover golf green fees, hole-in-one coverage, recreational equipment, and recreational vehicle damage, like the little, golf cart.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they do get a hole-in-one, I believe they will pay for the party's tab. The travel assistance will pay for the party's tab that's with them. So there's a lot of neat features.
Really cool.
A lot of excellent coverages.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 different types of policy plans: the essential, which is your basic, and your enhanced, which I sent you the outline. The enhanced just has higher limits than the essential. So they have an option as far as what they want, and you're more than welcome to send those or email those to anyone that is interested, so they can see the different options. What else? But yeah, it's a coverage that doesn't exclude where you're traveling to.
That's perfect. Yeah, because we get people who go to many different places, and that's the thing for me, that as a traveler that travels all the time, every time I go from one country to the next, I'm having to buy a new policy. And like the amount of money that you're talking about in terms of investing, that more than makes up for that sort of security and reassurance, because, I could, depending on how long my stay, I could hit that in one trip. So
another thing I'd like to point out is sometimes people I have that coverage on my credit card.
Yes.
Some credit card companies do provide a little bit of travel insurance. I can guarantee you the limits are not much.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a throw-in, but the key is if they have been late on their credit card payment once within 3 years, that coverage does not apply.
Wow.
And a lot of times people don't know that because they don't read that fine print. It's in the fine print.
That's unbelievable. I never would have known that as well.
But basically, just cover your bases. Make sure that you have some type of coverage. I mean, it can be a lot of times, like I said, we do it all the time. I've done it, where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to Mexico. Nothing's going to happen. But, what happened remember, just the situation, and I'm sure you probably remember hearing about this, the individuals who were getting sick, the people were putting something in the alcohol, like the people that were doing their all-inclusive package, and you have unlimited alcohol. Well, people that worked in the facility were putting something in the alcohol, and numerous people were getting sick. So what do you do in a situation like that? Can you just imagine you're with a group of people and you have 3 and 4 people that are now sick on your trip, and it's like, the first thing is what do I do? Who do I call? You're in a city that speaks a different language, Spanish. You're in Mexico, and where are you going to go? ease of, it's just a phone call. You'll get travel cards. Once you bind your policy, you'll get a policy which shows you outlines your coverage, your exclusions, and then you also have your travel card with your information for your portal to call and your 800 number. So it's very simple. It's ease of doing business, and then at least you can rest assured you go on vacation that if anything happens, you're just a phone call away.
Yeah. And I mean, it really does come down to, like you said, protecting yourself against the unforeseeable. I remember years ago, I went on a trip to Ghana, and it was right around the time where they had that big Ebola outbreak that was happening in what a lot of different parts of West Africa. And I'll never forget, there were U.S. students who were basically prevented from entering into the country for like 2 weeks. And so it was just very, very interesting how that situation impacted not only their length of stay, but just their overall plan. And, not really knowing, how that situation would have been handled. And we still don't know if those folks had, travel insurance, they may or may not have, but that's just like an example of the minute you leave the country, anything can happen. And so I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak with us today about this very important topic. I want to ask you, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to follow up with you or have questions, or even to purchase the policy? Because I can definitely tell you that, I was waiting on, us to have this conversation, but I'm definitely going to purchase it, because I'm somebody, I travel all the time. And, this is something that we definitely will recommend to all of our community. And so what is the best way that folks can get in touch with you?
Either by email or by phone. If you have anyone that's interested, please feel free to share my phone number. It's an awesome coverage, and it's definitely worth having.
Definitely. And, for those of you who are watching, I will make sure that we share Tania's contact information with all of you so that you can follow up. And again, it's something that we highly recommend, whether you're traveling with us, whether you're traveling solo or with another organization. You just purchase your travel insurance. You don't have to worry about it for the year. And, I just feel very strongly about it, because, I've seen people in need from a number of different things that were unexpected to happen while traveling. So again, many thanks to you, Tania. I'm so happy that you're going to be joining us in Brazil. I cannot wait. This is going to be a very fun time for all of us. And so
and I'm excited more trips to come with your group. So
Indeed. So thank you guys for watching, and we will put more info in the description box as well. So thank you for watching, and until next time.